Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you are. Welcome to the community live stream. My name is Chuck Tomasi, Senior Developer Evangelist at ServiceNow, and this is August 31st, 2020, and our topic today is script actions. I'll get to that in just a moment. First, a reminder that we do this show Mondays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. UTC, so that's currently 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 p.m. IST, no, 7:30 p.m. IST. I'll get it. It's actually written down here just off screen. I should have it memorized, but yeah, you all change your clocks and it makes me confused. So I don't, and it's 2 p.m. UTC. So if you have to do the math, go ahead and hit share, like, helpful, subscribe. I think the alert has already gone out. Let me look. Yeah, there's the Twitch and YouTube alert messing with my green screen. But we've got those. And apparently it's telling me to update my voicemail messages, which is odd. I shouldn't do that at 7 a.m. when I'm starting this at 7 a.m. So we'll move on. You know what to do on YouTube. Share your comments there in the comments. Hit the like so people can understand if this has something useful in there. Everybody's joining up. Thank you very much. It is a wonderful group in the chat today. Had a nice pre-show chat, so some of you showed up early and just some well wishes and good luck, and thank you very much. I appreciate it. The broadcast is also done on Twitch, twitch.tv/nowcommunity. If you happen to go over there, that one's around for a couple of weeks. You can use it as a backup plan in case something happens with YouTube. But fingers crossed that the internet deities are with us today. We'll soldier on. 7:30 IST, Ganesh tells me. Thank you for confirming that. If you've got questions that go beyond today's topic of script actions, okay, please, I invite you to post them in the community. That is the place to get your crowdsourced support. If you're not going to our regular customer support, then this is a great place to bounce ideas and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of, or I'm trying this and I ran into that. Be sure to do the needful and post good details about what it is you're trying to do, not just technically, but functionally. What is the objective? Because I've often gone down path A and somebody says, well, if you're trying to do X, path B might be a better approach. I'm like, oh, you're so right. And that would just change my head around. So as you're posting, pictures are a great idea. If you can put in a screenshot, it's worth 1,000 words of what you're doing. I had a support case this weekend, and it turned out to be something silly that I should have caught. It was something that I learned 12 years ago. But thank you for somebody. Every once in a while, you need somebody to remind you that even the easy ones can get by the pros. Good morning, everybody. Let's continue on. So community, please keep your questions if you've got questions or tips. This is a dialogue with the chat, the live chat. If you're around doing that, put your comments in there. I may be missing something, or I may say, hey, you know what? I never did figure this out. If you figured it out, please let me know. It's a wonderful thing. This is a live community. This is a piece of the community, and will be posted back to community.servicenow.com with all of the links and show notes. In fact, I think it's up there right now. I'm just going to tweak it a little bit after the show. We will have some clips in there. If you are interested in becoming a developer or want to grow your developer skills, by all means, go over to developer.servicenow.com. Get a free personal developer instance running the latest release of Paris, which is still, as of this video, at least for a couple more weeks, still in early access, so you can be one of the first people to take a look at Paris and unlock its features and discover and go through the release notes and learn all there is to know about the Paris release. Excuse me. Got some cobwebs to clear out this morning. We also have the scripting APIs. I'll take a look at that this morning. We've got learning plans. We've got blog entries. There are events. So if you're looking for what's coming up in the developer ecosystem, developer.servicenow.com is the place to go. Wonderful place. Lots of great content. Continues to change. Do check that out. The other thing to check out on there is some of the meetups that are happening. We've had a few last week. I think we've got another one or two this week over at meetup.com/pro/ServiceNow dev program. A lot of these, in fact, all of them right now, I believe, are happening virtually. please, if you are considering having a meetup, do it virtually until we get out of this whole COVID situation. We don't want any of our precious developers to get sick or get others sick. So do that over at meetup.com. There's always something happening. I know there's a couple, like 3 of them coming up in India in the next couple of weeks. So check that out. A lot of great ideas being shared on those meetups over at meetup.com/pro/ServiceNow dev program. These are developers talking about developer topics to other developers. So, hey, what more can you wish for, right? That's a great thing. If you have developed an application, please be sure to tell us about it over at bit.ly/tell-us-about-your-app, and we will donate $50 per app, up to 5 apps, to the UN COVID Recovery and Relief Fund that you see there. It could be a handy utility for other developers. It could be something that's running your entire enterprise. We'd love to hear about this and help out those who have been dealing with the COVID situation. Go over to that link. Takes just a few minutes. Let us know what you built. If you haven't already been listening, the Breakpoint podcast had a special episode last week. It was the content from the webinar I did with David Liu. Yeah, that David Liu from, not just the demo data, but he is a real person who helped write some of the earliest code. I think it was employee number 2 or 3 or 4. It was Fred Luddy, Bo Ruggieri, Don Goodliff, and David Liu were like our founding forefathers. You can almost picture them on Mount Rushmore, if you will, instead of the 4 presidents. We should have a Mount Rushmore of service. Anyway, I'm getting off track. The Breakpoint podcast comes out every other Wednesday. Our regularly scheduled one for this Wednesday in just a couple of days. If you haven't already subscribed, over at bit.ly/sn-break-point, you can find it on your favorite podcast directories as well. Apple, Google, Spotify, you get the idea. Stitcher, TuneIn, there's a whole bunch of directories out there that have it. If whatever your podcast, or you can do the brute force thing like a lot of developers and just type in the RSS URL and be done with it. I think that's what I did before I got on any of those directories just to test it. So this Wednesday, we're going to be talking with Wolf Wedemeyer about building Now Experience components. Sort of the behind the scenes look at the Tech Now we did a couple of weeks ago. So he was gracious enough to give us his time on Tech Now to show us how to build the components. Now we're getting more into conversational dialogue about, hey, what skills are needed, and some of the things we didn't have time to ask on Tech Now. We're going to be doing that quite a bit, getting our Tech Now host onto Breakpoint and having a discussion. And then there's some other stuff coming up in September and October, and we've got such a great schedule. In fact, I'll be recording another one this week. Go listen. This is the ServiceNow Developer Podcast, if you haven't already seen that. Speaking of Tech Now, that is our monthly webinar series for ServiceNow admins, builders, developers, all skill levels, wide variety of platform topics. And our platform topic this month is about the new features on upgrades in Paris. Jivanjot will be joining us. She is one of our product managers around upgrades and ATF. So we'll be doing that on the 15th. That is just a couple of weeks away. Whew. It's hard to believe that August is gone, and I'm planning well into September and October for wonderful things to bring you. Look for that over at bit.ly/TN79reg. Go register, get the reminder, put it on your calendar. It's going to be a wonderful session. We have some really, really cool stuff coming out around upgrades in Paris. If you haven't already seen, she will be giving you the deep dive. She's the person who knows. So if you've got questions, bring them. We're going to have live Q&A on that. We will be doing a little bit of scripting today. I've pre-composed a few of these, so you don't have to watch me type 20 or 30 lines of code. We'll walk through it. That code will be available for you to take, download, dissect, rearrange, practice, do whatever you like. Put in your own table names. Over at the bit.ly link you see there, it will have a dated folder with today's date. I'll have that uploaded within minutes of the conclusion of this broadcast. I don't have it there right now, but well, in real time, if you're watching this, in the year 2027, yeah, it's still out there. At least I hope it is. Is bit.ly still a thing? I'm playing time more mind games with myself this morning. I don't know what. No coffee, kids. This is just the way I am. It's 7 a.m. So go look for that code. The code from the previous episodes is also in that. If we did code that day, obviously. If it was something on Form Designer, probably not going to find a folder with some code out there. If you are new to JavaScript, maybe you're an admin who needs to replace a developer, maybe you're new to the Now platform and you want to learn the esoteric things about how ServiceNow does this, I invite you to go to bit.ly/sn-learn-js. There is a whole series about learning JavaScript from the start, from the syntax, from the variable names, from commenting, all the basic stuff you need to get started, and then build your skills as you go up through complex objects and functions and looping, and all of this is based around ES5, ECMAScript 5. No word yet. When I hear about something about ES6, I will definitely be able to share it with you. I will let you know, because that is one of the most common questions I get, and I am relaying that to our development team about that. So please, no questions. Where's ES6? I don't know yet, and I want it also. Look for that over there. And somebody just before the broadcast started asked me, hey, how's the progress going on the next video series? Well, the next video series that I'm going to be doing is on integrations. It is a big topic, and it's not coming out all at once, Netflix style. It's going to be almost like seasons. I'm going to be releasing this in blocks or parts or sections, if you want, that the first one will be getting started. The second block will come out shortly after around import sets. And then we'll talk about web services. And then we'll talk about Integration Hub. So I'm going to have this. There will be, probably in import sets, probably 15 to 20 episodes. So you'll have plenty of content. But I didn't want to wait until all of them are done, because A, that would be a lot of content for you to digest. B, it might not be what you were looking for at that moment. So we're going to learn, we're going to grow, we're going to do it a little bit different this time, but still feed you that content. So hopefully on a somewhat regular cadence, maybe it's every 4 weeks, maybe it's every 6 weeks, maybe it's every 8 weeks, you get a new season of your favorite show. So it will be similarly titled, I suspect, to this. It would probably say, learn integrations on the Now platform, and we'll go from there. So I'm back. Let's get started with script actions. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do, and it's a lot of fun. Let me get to there's my personal developer instance from developer.servicenow.com. Go get yourself a free PDI and get started. Quick overview of what we're going to be covering. I have built, and you may have seen this in previous episodes, an application with some tiered tables. If you're familiar with ITSM, we have requests and request items and service catalog tasks similar to that, where you've got this parent-child-parent relationship of 3 tables. I used programs, courses, and tasks, or to-dos, whatever it was under there, students that could attend these courses. Well, at a program level, so we've got programs, and programs are composed of courses. I've got two apps running in my head right now. Programs are composed of courses, and courses have attendees or students underneath them. Each course can easily determine how many students there are in that related list. But I'd like to roll up the student count of all of the courses to the program level. And I don't want to do this while the person waits. So the idea of that's the data model. The idea of script actions is they are triggered by events, not ITOM events from some sort of system management application, not events like birthdays and weddings. These are system events that happen when somebody views a list, or somebody impersonates a user, or an email needs to be triggered. These are system events. And those events happen either by the system implicitly doing some action, or one of your scripts creating or triggering one of those events. What are they useful for? Processing stuff in the background. Just go trigger this event and pick it up and do it whenever you feel like it. It's not imperative to my process flow. Great way of doing asynchronous processing. We already have asynchronous processing a couple of different ways, with business rules that run async would be one, flows that run another, but there are times when you need to react to a system event. And right now we don't have a way to trigger a flow based on a system event, unless you use a script action to call the flow API, but that's a different story. All right. So what I'm going to do is go through a couple of scenarios where I'm going to create an event in the first, trigger that event, and then run the script action. So real quick rundown, business rules run on database triggers. A record was inserted, a record was updated, a record was created, a record was deleted, a record was read. We've got these basic database operations, the CRUD operations as we call them, to trigger a business rule. I really wish they were called database triggers instead of business rules. It would have been a better, more appropriate name, but we didn't name them that. Somebody way back in David Liu's time did that for us. So business rules, database trigger. If you need something triggered manually, you're probably already familiar with UI actions. I've got an episode on that coming up just to get you the fundamentals and maybe some insights on that. UI actions are the buttons, are the links you see on forms and lists. For example, this menu down here is composed of UI actions. This right-click menu has some UI actions in it. Those are manual triggers to go and do something. Script actions are event-driven. You may have put events to use with email triggers, which is fine. It's the way they used to be done in the old days before we had the condition builder and the table thing and all that good stuff. But we are going to build ourselves a UI action, a script action first. Now, script actions are server code, so all of the wonderful stuff you get out of glide record operations is there. The first thing we need to do is define the script. I have built a script right here, not too difficult to go through. It says, go get the programs from my program table that are active in order, because there's an order field, and for every one you find, let's go get the related courses. So for each program, I'm going to get the list of courses. And for each course, I'm going to open up the table of attendees and do a count. Notice this is a glide aggregate because all I'm doing is counting. To do a glide record here would be inefficient, especially if I had hundreds of thousands of things to count. It's so slow because it has to retrieve all of those records. Glide aggregate, if you're just counting. Okay, we'll talk about glide query another time. It's coming up. Then I take that and add the course count to the program count. Program count was initiated way up here for each program. It is an integer, and notice that I am doing a parse int. I don't trust whatever comes out of glide aggregate. I don't trust whatever comes out of get value. I want to ensure it's actually a number. Otherwise, if it comes out as a string, I'm going to get 3 plus 4 is going to say 34 because it's concatenating strings rather than adding the values. So this adds things together. I am going to do a GS info just to keep things visible to me. And I'm not going to do the update yet. I've got that commented out at this point. I have a student count value on the program. So I'm counting, I'm like to skip past the course record to count up all the attendees per course. That is my script. Let's test this. Where do I often test things? Over in scripts background. Test it there. Run it in the proper scope so that it knows things like constants.attendee. If you didn't see that one, that's another code decoded a little while ago. And it says I found 6 in IFF, 21 in I found 6 in Fleen, 15. So you can see the program counters going up 6, 21, 30, 38, which is 6 plus 15 plus 9 plus 8. If I do my math real quick, that sounds about right. And Zelp had 56 attendees and 13 attendees, which adds up to 69. And that is the total number that I can then put back into the program record. Okay, so my script is running. It's counting, it's summing things up for each program. That wasn't the hard part. Actually, that was the hard part. The easy part is take that script, and now we're going to make a script action. Two things to watch out for. First, let's collapse all this. Go to server development, and I don't think I have one in here. Detect program manager. Nope. Okay, so I've already built one. This is what a pre-built one looks like, almost like a cooking show. This is what we're after. I have a name. I have an event I'm going to trigger off of, and this list of event comes from the event registry. Now, in this event registry are all of the out-of-box system-based events. And if I create one, it typically starts with a table name first. Okay. Problem task. You get the idea. Or U underscore if you want to create one that way. If it's a scoped one, it's going to start with X underscore. I don't have anything that says X under 66238 under CLS 323. That's my scope. So I need one. I need to create an event so that I can create this. The other thing is when you create a new script action, it will default to active false. I have run into this nearly every time. I don't know what genius thought that a default value of false was a good idea, but you may want to consider on your dev system changing the default value to true. Maybe that's so it doesn't accidentally run in dev. I don't know, but I don't like that idea. It just trips me up every time. And it's been that way for quite some time, and you'd think I'd learn after a while, but some things are a little obtuse in my brain. In my opinion, one should call script include in a script action. Script actions are usually triggered on events. They're always triggered on events. Maybe Chuck can throw some more light on this. So yes, I'll be doing an architectural discussion soon too. Got that all mapped out, ready to go, of where script includes go and script actions and business rules and REST APIs and client scripts and client callable script include. It's all coming. Okay, so I'm putting these foundation pieces in place. This would be a bit of a chunk of code to stick in a script action or a UI action. So I am going to, if I were doing this for a production program, I would create a script include and do that. But just for the sake of, here's some code, I want to use it, let's go and create our script action. So it's under server development in Studio. If you're looking over here, it's going to be under system definition. I take that back. It's under system policy because it's event driven. System policy, script actions, or under Studio, it's right down here under server development. I double click, give it a name, first check active, so I don't get that stuck again. And we'll call this program student count. Oh no, I forgot to create my event. I often do this out of order. Hard to remember to create the event first. So let's go ahead and paste this in, submit that, and go and create the event. So the event needs to be created in the event registry. If you're looking in the platform UI, it's going to be registry under system policy events registry. There is another one under performance analytics, which goes to the same place, but this one just shows the PA ones. It's got a predefined filter on it. That's no big deal. So I could either go there or in Studio, registry. It's under server development event registration. Under event registration, we will create one. Notice that it already has the scope suffix on it. So I can name this as simple or as complex as I like. I'm going to call it student count, and it will put the suffix on there for me. It's associated with the table program, that one. And I'm not going to worry about the caller access. Fired by and description are helpful fields. These are documentation, okay? Fired by, I'm going to eventually tie this to a UI action count students. And the description is run the script action to sum up students. Be a good admin, be a good developer, put these in. I'm not going to get too deep into events, but I just need that event entry in there. Now the system event processing engine is aware of this. If someone triggers an event that's not in there, because you can trigger events a couple of different ways. I'll show you in just a second. The most common way in script. But if you were just to write a script and trigger an event that's not registered, it's going to go, meh, okay, I don't know what that is. So you've got to have this in here. I probably should have left that out so that I can copy and paste that action. I need that for in a second. Now, I need to refresh the form so that it refreshes that choice list. We will do this, x underscore, there it is, student count. Now this script is tied to that event. Anytime that event is triggered in the system, it's going to say, oh, who's responsible? Who's reacting to that event? It might be a notification or notifications. It might be a script action. It might be, who knows? So that's what we've got. We've got an order here in case that event gets triggered and multiple script actions need to react to it. We can tell it which ones to run first. So we won't do that. Got horrific documentation in here, some nice comments. Let's go through and run it. I am going to update the value in the record. Now it's going to go through and do my 2 active records. So I update that. It is now live. Anytime that event comes across the system, it's going to react to that. And the way I do that is I'm going to copy that out back in scripts background. Make that a little bigger for you. I'm going to say gs.eventQ is the method we use to trigger that. I give it the event name. I give it the second parameter is a glide record. Well, I don't actually have a glide record to pass this thing because it's going through all the records itself. Okay, so I can put in null, and then there are 2 event parameters that go on this. They are both strings. Oftentimes you'll see something like gs.getUserID, and I will see in the log and have access to, my script will have access to the sysid of the person who triggered this script. It could be a stringified JSON object. It could be anything you want in these 2 strings. It could be nothing. So I'm going to just put in a scripts background test as one of them, hello world as the other. Those are just 2 arbitrary parameters. If you've got nothing better if you don't need them in your script, put in the sysid and the date. Right? Well, the date's already in there. Let's run this. Put in some diagnostic thing so at least the log will make sense. When I trigger that and go to the event log, which is right there under system policy. Did I make that too small? We'll go with 150 for now. Event log, I see there is my event. It was triggered. There's parameter 1, there's parameter 2, and it was processed, and it took a whole 106 milliseconds. It was processed. That means the engine got it. It saw it, it recognized it, and now it's time to say, did our script actually run? Well, remember I had a log statement in the system logs? Let's go to the system logs, and there they are. Yay! My counting seems to be working. Let's make sure that my program records are updated. Programs, records. Let's put the student count on the list. A little forward up front would be nice. 38, 69, these 2 are 0. They're active, but they just don't have any students on them. So we know our counter's working. What is the benefit of that? Well, I might have something running somewhere in the system that says, hey, you know what? It's time to update that. Just throw the event. One little thing will trigger this whole script action. Very useful. Let's trigger it manually. Ooh, that'd be fun. Let's do it from a UI action. I could put that UI action on a form. In this case, I'm going to put it on the list. I don't do these too often. They're just kind of fun. Let's create a UI action. So create UI action, click, and just like a good developer, give it a name, update student count. Let's give it the table. It's going to appear on the program, program. There it is, program table. It's going to be a list banner button. And I like to give these CLS count student. I like to give them an action name. Tell you why when I get to the UI actions episode. We don't really care about insert and update because it's a list. Not really making much of a difference there. Let's make this big and green so that we see it, or whatever your primary color is. Comments, count the students. Put in your comments and description fields, kids. I don't need a condition. Well, maybe I do want a condition like gs.hasRole admin or CLS admin or something. Do I want this to appear for everyone to just whack that button? And all I need in here is my same statement I had before, which was handy dandy over here. Copy, paste, and away we go. Now this will be UI action. The world, submit that. And when I go back to my programs list, I should have a nice big green button up here that says update student count. Click. It says no record selected. Oh no. Okay, there is a trick to work around that. I'm just going to do that. And it sent the event, did the processing in the background, and a quick refresh of this. Uh-oh. Maybe this wasn't the best idea. Did it run? Did the event get triggered? Let's do a little debugging. So event log. What is the difference between scheduled job and the script action? Scheduled jobs. Oh, I missed that. So we had business rules run on database triggers. UI actions run on manual triggers. Scheduled jobs run on a timed basis. Daily at 2 p.m. Every 4 hours. Okay, that's a scheduled job. You don't know when an event is going to happen. An event may happen when you impersonate a user. That's not scheduled. It's not database triggered. Definitely not manually triggered. So we've got different ways to run different pieces of code. So script action, event triggered. Scheduled job, time-based. Good question. Can you please tell me something about the queue and how to create custom queue and how to use it? I'm going to do that on a different one. I don't know if we're going to have time to get into that depth of it today. I'm going to change my mind on that UI action. First, let's find out, did it trigger the event? The answer is yes. I clicked it twice. There it is. Did it run? Processing duration. It was processed. Yes, everything looks good there. How about our system log? Did it actually do anything? Open up a new tab, and that was at 7:32, and this one was at 7:32. Should have run. It counted the records. Maybe my update wasn't commented out of my script action. I thought I did. No, I did that. Student count, program count. It ran, it just didn't update the records apparently. Let's go to the programs records. Oh, it did. Okay. So the thing about the event processing engine is you throw an event into the queue. That doesn't say run it now. It says run it when you get to it. If you're doing, say, a CI import and it's triggering an import for all those CIs and somebody wants an email sent, it may have to sit and wait. That gets into the queues. And again, I'm not going to get into that too much, but don't count on events running immediately. It could take a few seconds. It could take a few minutes. It's going to happen eventually when the event queue processor gets around to it. But it's going to happen in the background. So use these where you feel you need something to happen eventually. It's going to happen. Good question. What is the sequence of execution on event trigger? Notification first or script action? We'd have to do an experiment. I don't know. That's a good question. Would it matter? Does it matter? If you're going to update, I suppose if you had a script action that updated records somewhere and then triggered a notification, you might want to know if you're using the latest and greatest record. That might be a use case for that. Good question. All right, back to script action use case 2. We've got this one that we can trigger manually. Next use case I've got is I want to keep track of who is using this impersonate button. Okay, I've got people impersonating, but I don't really have a log of that. Well, there is a system-generated, let's go impersonate Able Tutor real quick just to watch the event log and then end the impersonation. There is a system-generated event called impersonate. And if I go to the event log, there it is, impersonation.start and impersonation.end. Now I know who's using impersonate. And look, there is a user ID. This is not a sysid. This is not a reference field. It's a user ID. It's a string field. That's what parm1 always is. It's always a string. And who did he impersonate? So I am going to leverage that. Let's create a quick table to log our impersonations. Back to Studio, create table. I'll call this impersonation log. And I don't need, let's put it in the CLS module just for fun. Create a couple of tables. We want, I might have to look at the string and reverse engineer what I put in the table the first time. But it's going to be probably the user as a reference to sysuser. Come on, user, that one. Take a look at my other script, impersonation logger. Oh, this one's global. Interesting. Okay, whatever reason I didn't do this one in a scope. And there may be a very good reason for that. I just don't remember what it is right now. But just to be different, let's get rid of that. Okay. We won't be using Studio for that today. Let's get rid of the system log and go back to global scope. Just because I know a lot of you are doing development in global, we'll create a new table. Tables, table system, definition tables. And create a table called impersonation log. And it's called impersonation log, right? Impersonate log. Get the name right. Impersonate log. Doesn't extend any table. I don't necessarily need this, but we'll put one in anyway. And I've got a couple of fields in here. I've got the user and the count. Okay. Who are my frequent impersonators? And then I can go talk to them. So user is going to be a reference to the user's table. The count is going to be integer. And default value will be 0. There we are. Keep in the back of your mind, integers are stored as strings, and you're going to have to convert them. That is that. Hopefully we'll be able to create that module. Yes? Maybe? I don't know. Let's look at our script. Okay. This is going to be triggered on the impersonate.start event, a system event already out there. We're just going to take advantage of it because I don't know what else is going on with that event, but frankly, I don't care. I just want my logic to run when somebody does an impersonate. And that is, go take the parameter that was given to you, chuck.tomasi, I already know that, find the count for that user. The user already has a log entry, update it. Ah, okay, good. I'm not going Chuck here, Chuck there, Chuck there. I'm just finding if Chuck has a record. If so, I update it by incrementing the counter value. If not, I create a new one. Pretty easy. But I have to first get that user record as a, turn that string into a user. Or do I? No, it's not a reference. It is a string. Okay, because I am just saying go get it by that parameter. Better change my data model a little bit. This will not work. This will try and put a Chuck.Tomasi into a sysid field. Impersonate log. Fortunately, it's really easy to fix the data model. I should have had better notes on what my table should have been. Save that. Goodbye user field. Put in a new one. User is a string. Done. Whew. This database stuff is killer. I also want to make sure that my script has the correct field names. It should be u underscore, right? Let's make sure those field names are correct. I look at count, it is u underscore count. If I look at user, it is u underscore user. So my script needs to reflect that. So get u underscore user, that's the table name, set value u underscore count. I also have it referenced here and here. I'm a mistake when you flip between scoped and global apps. I say we try it out. Let's go and create the script action that goes along with this. So script actions, under events or system policy events, create one and called log impersonation. Impersonate. Make sure it's active. And then go find impersonate.start in this list, right at the very bottom of where I was typing. Condition script, again, I could run this under certain conditions. Maybe if the impersonating user is admin, I don't care. Or maybe I do care. You could put if event.parm1 equals admin or not equal admin. So there is my script. I take advantage of event parm1 to get the user record. Then I get the count and increment it. Submit. Throw some holy water on my instance to see that it runs. Impersonate able tutor. Again, I could have captured parm2 if I wanted. And end impersonation. Let's go look at u impersonate log.list. And I have, hey, Chuck has done one impersonation. Congratulations. If Chuck went off and impersonated another user, Howard Johnson, did some stuff as Howard, came back, end impersonation, I should see my impersonate log from my recent things. Still says 1. 2. I logged it. I unimpersonated faster than the event processing engine could process that event. But you get the idea. Okay, I can take advantage of these things and make it very easy. If your user IDs are things like H013357 and you don't know who that is, obviously you would want to do a little bit of lookup on the sysuser table, convert that to a sysid, and make this a reference field. Or do both. Put the user ID from the parameter. You could say parm1 was this. The lookup told me it was Chuck Tomasi, employee number, or whatever, and your reference field does the rest for you. Can I use event to count mobile users too? If there's an event that's being triggered, you can write a script action for it. Absolutely. I haven't checked on mobile. I don't know what events that throws. How to minimize the large number of events being queued. Be careful. Okay? Be cognizant of what you're doing. I know that imports, by default, if you're running business rules, those business rules could be generating events. That was one of the things early on. I don't know if that's still the case because I haven't done an ITSM implementation in a while. But as you import a lot of CIs, it's throwing like a CI.updated event, and that will flood your queue, and you need to sit there and wait. So maybe you run your import without CIs. That's going to be in the imports, or without business rules running. That'll be part of the integration series. Wow, brains all over the place. Any other questions? How do you run the event on impersonation? Could you give a brief? How do you run the event on? I think we just did. We set up a script action. The event is already being generated. It's a system-based event. I didn't run it. I didn't do a gs.eventQueue anywhere. So now you know a little bit more about gs.eventQueue, how to trigger your own events, and how to react to events that are triggered by the system itself as well. What else do we have? Sometimes the event table has so many events to process and which affects the instance performance, how to manage the situation. Yeah, again, it's really being aware of what is being done. Most times I've seen performance issues with the event processing engine. It's because somebody is doing something very repetitive and not recognizing that they're triggering an event. Most of the things you do in a script, don't worry, don't put things into the event. You would have to physically call gs.eventQueue. You may be running something that's out of the box that's running gs.eventQueue, but when the time you get into trouble is when you're doing something very repetitive. I update this record, I update that record, I'm updating 10,000 records. You could potentially be triggering events. It never hurts, as a diligent developer, it never hurts to look at the system log periodically and find out what's happening. Am I getting warnings that I don't know about? I filter out information. Am I getting errors that I don't know about? Am I getting, whoa, what was this? When did that happen? Look, I got a big ugly stack trace at 7:42 a couple of minutes ago. Was that me? Well, you scroll over here to the source. Apologies, it's a little large on the font size. Over to the source, and about halfway down the stack trace, we should see that. It's from the evaluator. Ooh, someone had a problem. Was it me? Was it not? Could be. Report alias configuration is doesn't sound like me. Never hurts to look and see, do you have errors happening? Report alias configuration is disabled. Something's having an issue on this instance that needs looking into. I'm getting some errors. The other one is look at the event log periodically. Understand what's happening. If you see hundreds and thousands of some event, backtrace it. Use the code search feature in Studio to see if you can, excuse me, see if you can figure out where that event is being triggered from and understand why is it being called that. Now, you're going to have to do a little detective reasoning if things aren't being processed as quickly as you'd like. And you can find out if they are being processed quickly from, of course, the event log. It says when was it queued and when was it processed. This one started at 7:47:01. It was processed 8 seconds later. Glide.heartbeat. Okay, I think the system's just got a heartbeat. Don't worry about that one. That's not the source of your problem. Okay, it's running roughly once a second or so, once a minute. That's not going to clog up your backlog. It's going to be the ones where you see multiples of them every second. Report.view. Somewhere there was a system report being run. I don't know exactly what that was for. I must have loaded a home page. Oh, I loaded a home page when I impersonated the other user. We saw that. So you could see all the events that are happening. Get familiar with them. Get comfortable with them, and you can also react to them with script actions. So that's my deal on script actions. They are a wonderful way to do some processing in the background based on a system event. The events could be yours. They could be system generated, and by running them in the background, you automatically make them async. I ran into a situation where I was trying to do a scripted outbound REST message and can't do it from an after business rule, but I needed the after business rule to have both current and previous objects. Because if you take your business rule and switch it to async, you no longer have previous, you just have current. So I needed current and previous, but I needed that REST message to be triggered by the business rule and run async. So I set up a business rule and a script action, made the after business rule trigger an event, which then started the script action, which was fine running the outbound REST message. Because think about it, if you tried to run an outbound REST message synchronously, you could be waiting an awful long time, and that would hold the user hostage. Their browser, they go, this system's slow. I hate ServiceNow, it's slow. Because you're not doing the process asynchronously. You're making them wait until everything is done on that after. We'll get business rules again sometime. Could you please help me with guided tour launch issue? Good question for the community. Not doing much on guided tours today. But thank you very much for joining me. Hope you can join me on Thursday, the 3rd of September. So we'll be doing this again in 3 days. when I talk about glide session. There's some interesting stuff in here that you don't want to miss. And we may even talk about events again. See, there's kind of an order that this goes in. So join me for glide session discussion Thursday, September 3rd, 2 p.m. UTC. And until then, be safe, be kind, and share what you learn. Make the world a better place. Take care, everybody. Bye.